All right. This episode of Tent Talk is brought to you by the team at Personalised Property Professionals, the team of Brian and Lisa. It goes by the name of Happy, and happy you will be if you go with the team.
Oh, that is a perfect segue.
It's great, isn't it?
And what do they specialise in, Duff?
Mate, they specialise in everything. They're the full package when it comes to property and
Like
being the
rentals?
professionals. Rentals, investments, DIY, auction bidding. Like you get the nerves at auction. It's hard. It's testing.
It's not for everybody.
It's testing ground. It's not for everyone. Happy will go to war for you. He will go in there with the paddle.
Yep.
And he will bid for you at auction.
Yep.
So look, they are professionals. They've been doing this for years now. They're a little boutique buyers agency. They only take on just a handful of clients at a time. So you know with Happy and Lisa that you're getting looked after. You're getting the first class, A-class service.
I love that. I love boutique anything. We've got a sponsor of this week pod as well that we're going forward with as well. And then obviously a little boutique service paradise as well. So I'm very familiar with the boutique outfit stuff.
Well, that's it. You and I, we've both got a mortgage. We've
Very
been in
much.
the trenches. But for those that haven't been in the trenches, for those that maybe need to invest in the world of rent vesting, Brian and Lisa, they've got you there as well.
What's rent vesting?
Well, rent vesting is where you live where you love
Right.
and you invest where it counts.
Okay. That sounds like a bit of me.
Think of it this way, Beats. You're a Warilla Barrack Point boy.
I am.
You train up at Surfers Paradise. Maybe you can't afford Surfers Paradise. Maybe it's too big. Maybe it's too hard. Go back home. Buy in Warilla Barrack Point. Have the family home you always dreamed of. Rent in Surfers Paradise where you can afford. And whammo, bammo, you're in the market.
Best of both worlds.
Best of both worlds. So for those that want to reach out and see the team at Personalised Property Professionals, jump online, www.personalisedpropertyprofessionals.com today and let them know you're in there to build your future.
And you know what?
One property at a time.
Tell them Duff and Beats sent you.
Tell them.
It might mean nothing, but it might mean something.
It will mean everything to Happy and Lisa. We're happy to have them on board here at 10 Talk, and we can't wait for this long-lasting partnership just to build, like your property portfolio will, one property at a time.
Beautiful.
Reach out, get in the DMs if you can't get onto Personalised Property DM, and we'll put you in touch.
Welcome to the Tent Talk podcast with Duff and Beats. Get ready to
gotta
ride
dance,
the waves
Poole.
of excitement as we dive into all things surf sports and the Shaw and Partners World Ocean Series. Now, let's dive in. This is Tent Talk with Duff and Beats. It's Tent Talk time. It's Tent Talk time. It's Tent Talk time. It's Tent Talk time.
Beatbox. We did it. We made it.
Episode 50.
Episode 50. The doubters, they didn't believe it could be done.
Eat it.
The haters that gave us the 1-star review after episode 7.
Yeah.
Take that.
Yeah.
Episode 50. 90% of podcasts don't make it
To 10
through
episodes.
episode 10. 90% of those don't make it past episode 30. We are in the top 1% of podcasts in the world. And I tell you what, we have an absolute ripper plan for episode 50. We are going to spoil the listeners of the 10 Talk podcast. Beatbox. How we doing?
Not my name, Duff. Very excited, very appreciative as well. Episode 50. I thought we'd get here. Impressed that we did. And thanks to all the supporters, followers, and listeners for getting us here. It is for you guys, not for us. But Duff, episode
Yeah, we take
50.
no pleasure out of doing this. It's all for you.
I know, none.
None.
Episode 50. This one's been on our forecast and our guest for a long time now. So to get us all in the same room, episode 50, I think it's pretty exciting, and I'm keen for this one.
God, the people we had to talk to, the hoops we had to jump
man.
through, the rider, the size of the rider to get the guest in that we have. 10 Talks broke.
There was a lot of
Go on.
lot of red tape to get this one done, but yeah, like I said, great that that Rene got all that paperwork across the line.
The intern.
Good one, yeah.
He's done well there. Well, Max, do the honours, please.
Without any further ado, a brash, gawky teenager exploded onto the Ironman scene as an 18-year-old qualifying for his first Iron Series, and from there the legend began. For the next 15 plus years, he stayed atop of the sport, pushing for podiums and round wins, finally culminating in an Ironman Series victory in 2017. Countless wins and podiums across all formats of the sport. Whether it was gold, Iron Series, Summer of Surf, Aussies or World Champs, he was a perennial contender and one of the most consistent Ironmen of all time. His no-fucks-given approach to life and racing made him one of the most polarising characters in Australian sport. His vibrancy and charisma almost single-handedly kept the sport commercially afloat during some of the sport's toughest times. A trailblazer, an icon, and your favourite Ironman's favourite Ironman. Matt Poole, welcome to the pod.
Oh, boy. Thank you for
Get that mic a little bit closer. We can't hear you
a
there.
little bit closer.
Do you want me to get it for you? You
That
got
hyped
it?
me up a little
And
bit.
then just
there.
drop it a little bit so everyone can see that pretty face.
Where am I good?
Yeah, you
Reno,
good there?
how am I sitting?
Looking good?
Mate, that was hype.
That was good,
good.
eh?
That was like Al Pacino any given Sunday, like Jane Da
Dude.
Vinci's speech.
Yeah, I'll send that to you.
fired up.
I'll record it to you and
I'm
send
gonna
it
run
to
it
you.
straight.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Through the proverbial brick wall.
Apologise to Trent Golding. I was rehearsing that at work all day, so not much got done at the Finis office today.
Beauty. Poole, obviously honoured to have you on. Welcome. Episode 50. We knew we had to go big, and to be fair, we brainstormed, the three of us, and we went, who's the biggest that we can possibly get? Bevy was out, so we took you, Paulie, but thanks for joining us. And obviously we want to chat all things surf sports, definitely touch on your career in a great highlight. But have you followed 10 Talk podcast at all?
I have. I've been tuning along.
Are you aware of our 10
I
up,
watched Joe
10 down?
Collins' one.
Yeah,
oh,
well,
no,
we've got words.
Oh no.
Yeah. Well,
And Kingies. I loved Kingies.
Kingies.
Actually.
Kingies was great.
Kingies was amazing. And it was funny. Like, I had so many people reach out as well about that. Be like, have you heard Kingies' podcast? You got to listen to it. I was like, I'm going on in episode 50. I'm going to bury him. If he does me dirty here, he'll get it.
you're allowed to set the record straight. How many good punches did Kenj get on you?
Ah. About as many as Tyson got on Jake Paul. Me being Jake Paul, him being Tyson.
Yeah.
Beauty. Well, you might know our little segment that we like to do, ripped straight off a foot on the line. Tense up, tense down. Tense up, things that are happening that we love. Tense down, things that have a little bit of room for improvement. Where should we start?
I'm happy to go. I'm happy to go tense
here we
down
go.
first. Yeah,
All right, tense down. Let's start there and build up.
This one's really rubbed me the wrong way. And this one is to the Slim Reaper. This one's to Ethan Callahan.
Ooh.
Duff, how many do you reckon he gets? Probably 3 mentions per episode.
Oh, easily.
Ethan Callahan only just started following us on Instagram today.
God.
That is unacceptable. Like, I know he's kind of like hit stardom and he's going to be a big deal and whatever, but that's just plain disrespect if you ask me.
Is he still young enough that his parents control his Instagram?
It might be parent run.
It could be parent run. It could be one of those athlete pages that a parent runs. So, yeah, big tense down to Slim Reaper. That's not
man.
acceptable.
His one-liner at Swansea Belmont was all the time. I actually, funny enough, I went and followed him actually on Instagram after I heard that. He was down at Swansea and he yelled out to Reno. He goes, "Reno, how'd you get them Subarus down here?" He goes, "We drove him." He goes, stop putting miles on my car."
Yeah, he's fucking.
And I was like, bang, I'm following him for that. That's lit.
Respect.
Yeah.
Didn't know much about him before that.
Yeah.
But his stocks are rising.
Yeah, brings him to notch 1.
Yeah.
You got any tense down, Paulie?
Oh, tense down. I had 2, but I probably won't say the first one. Could be controversial.
Mate, that's why we got you here.
That's why we got you.
I
You
like
don't sit on the fence now that you're in the hot seat.
He spent 15 years being
God.
controversial, finishes the sport. He's like, nah.
Sit on my high horse
no
now.
good.
I had a long pondered to myself on the car area. I'm like, am I really going to risk losing my job and everything else at the moment right now? Like, are we going all in on this or what? No, tense down. This is a weird one. Riley Harland getting second in probably the hardest format of the Ironman series on the weekend, but getting no podium prize money or
Crazy.
even a photo for finishing 4th. You know, like the kid's like a freak. He's going to be a star. He's going to get on the podium a shitload more times.
Yeah.
But like, you know, that format was so tough, and what he did was proper big ball stuff.
Yep.
And it was just weird to like see a kid, you know, 18, 19, get on a podium.
Biggest race of his career.
And big ups, probably, it's not my 10 up, but big ups to it. Ali actually got a photo with him after. I said, "Mate, this is your podium. Like, come up, get a photo." So Ethan, Ali, and Riley, I heard, got a photo on the podium after just because.
Yeah. Yeah, because they missed the moment, right?
Missed the moment.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a
so
good
that's
tense
what my 10's down.
Yeah, well, that might tie in pretty perfectly with mine. And look, we had queries and questions around the new Shaw and Partners Iron series at the start with the new format and everything. And look, there's still plenty of time to play out. There's still plenty of time to see it. But I felt there was a lot to be desired still in the victory of the race. And you're talking there, race 1, podiums. They missed an opportunity there. We then tied into the weekend. I felt like, and I don't know if this is by design, it felt like there was more focus on the back of the race and who was in the red zone and the elimination zone than there was on the winners of the race. And look, you've won plenty of Iron Series races before in the past. They're not easy to win. And it feels like the shine of Lana and Alex Perfect Weekend is just it's missed that polish that maybe it used to have, because the new format might be tailored to the point where we're looking at the back end and not the front end. And I just don't know if that's my personal preference of viewing the race when I'd be honest, all I cared about was who was in the bottom 6, because they're the ones that are going, not who was winning the race. But that's
overall, I do like the format the way it is. I
think it'll be exciting by the end of the series.
It's essentially the WSL format, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it will be very exciting at the end. Is it harder to make stories out of the first couple of rounds? Probably.
Almost definitely.
And that's where I think...
And probably also having Ali and Lana go bang, bang.
Yeah.
It's like
they do
it so much now. It's
exactly.
kind of like,
the same old people doing the same old stuff. I agree.
Would you,
but that'll roll straight into my tense up, and it is Lana and Ali, because to do 2 in a row, to be a perfect weekend in the grueling conditions, in the tough conditions, and almost just continue on from last season where they were close to perfect last season. Like, they are built for this Shaw and Partners Iron Series. It suits them down to a T. The cream rises to the top with it, and they were tremendous on the weekend. So my big tense up is to them, and then some great performances as well. Like CJ Brennan finishing on that podium, that's enormous. Riley Harlan, like he's going to be a star. Connor Maggs, he looked like he has extra levels, and I think we saw it, and I think he kind of even noted on his social media that, hey, I'm back. Like I don't know where he went at 19 years of age, but it felt like he's got gears, and that he may have had a few more gears, but he didn't need to use them. I don't know.
We should have talked about this before we came on the pod, because that's my tense up is just the next generation of Ironman. I think that...
Damn it, that was mine.
Yeah,
You've
well,
used mine as well.
we should have coordinated.
Must be the shining light then.
But yeah, it's just the same names you mentioned. You know, the Connor Maggs. Like, I know, this might be another tense down. If we have time, we'll do another one. But yeah, just that next generation, that CJ Brennan, Riley Harlan, Ethan Callahan. Even in the girls, Henry Simpson in the men's as well. He was a great debutant. Sean, like all those guys that got there. I've certainly been victim of it. Is when you get in the series, you kind of like that's a kind of job done. When you achieve that kind of life goal. But none of those guys rested on their laurels. They all had great weekends. So and then Pibi Tapania, the whole generation of those next wave of athletes was my tense up for this week. They were all really impressive.
Yeah. I was going to dub them the big 3. They are the next big 3. Connor, Riley Harlan, Ethan Callahan.
There you go, the big
Probably
3.
not in that order, but
Yep.
They were so impressive, I thought. And what of those three, when you dissect and break down the way Ethan raced that and looking at pretty key moments throughout the race, it was psycho. It was so impressive what he did. He did it the weekend before at the World Ocean Series at Swansea. He was kind of back and he just had this big killer second leg, big run transition. I was like, wow. And all of a sudden in the final, we were like, where did Ethan come from? He was all of a sudden almost looking like he was going to win.
Yeah.
Swansea. And I was like, that sort of like grit. He's got the grit and he's got that speed, but he also, some guys don't like to lead. Some guys don't know how to lead. Yeah. And he knows how to fucking lead. He'll like push to the front. On. And it's like not many 18-year-olds are comfortable going to the front and going, no, I'm comfortable here. I'll go. I'll push to the front. And then even the way he kicked away from Ali, this is what I said after when I was sort of breaking it down. I think with Bevy, I was like, if Riley Harlan stayed with Ethan, I don't think Ali catches them. I think the two of them would have worked together and they would have just had and there was a moment where it was Ethan and Riley and them two working together. Ali would have had a very, very harder time catching them, right?
Yep.
But when Riley sort of just slipped back and it was Ethan on his own, like, man, he ran half lap and a half or a full line and a half on his own, not knowing how hard he has to go. You know, it's hard when the dartboard's on your back, so to speak.
Yeah.
And he still like did it so damn impressively.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I like I said, that was, you kind of stole the words out of my mouth, like the maturity that those guys are already racing with. And we do spruik on it quite frequently on here about, the pathways that the World Ocean Series does set. But the head on the shoulders that these guys have, that bit of ego, bit of swag, and swagger they have about themselves. Like you weren't allowed to have that when I was 18 and 19, and they have it in spades. And I think that's going to hold them in good regard for the rest of their career. Duff, do you have a tense up?
Yeah, that was my tense up.
Oh, it was?
Lana and Ali winning with my tense up, and then everyone sort of piled in on it. So I think it was a big 6x3 tense up there. So not just a single, a double canopy. But Poole, let's get to the main event then. And I reckon you like being called the main event.
It's funny, that's my nickname. It's called me the main event.
It sits well.
Yeah. Talk to us about early life as a nipper. How does a big gangly toddler end up Queenscliff Surf Club?
Yep.
How do you end up there? And then I guess how do you progress through the ranks to winning an under-17 Ironman title, moving up to the Gold Coast, winning an under-19 Australian Ironman Championship, getting your qualification and sort of moving through the ranks? Let's start right in the early days. Let's start at Queenscliff.
So I actually trained with Jeremy Cotter's dad. Billy Cotter was my coach at what was
crisp
that sound?
gravity.
What was that crisp?
That was a crisp gravity.
Can we just
Sorry,
take a
The
pause?
gravity just got sucked out of the room.
That was the gravity
Just
limoncello.
really quickly, I'm just tucking into this gravity hard soda, 1.3. It's like 100 calories. Absolutely delicious.
Say less.
Anyway, sorry, continue.
Sorry, carry on. And so started off at Queensy. Billy Cotter, Jeremy Cotter's dad, was my coach. And I sort of grew up playing a few ball sports. I did footy, soccer, water polo. I did surfing and surf life saving.
Were you any good at footy?
I was all right, actually.
Yeah. What was your position?
I was second row in NRL. I was all right. I got MVP in the under 14 grand
You would
final.
have been a big
2
boy
tries.
back then too, just quietly.
No, I wasn't. I was like I was a little bit gangly, but I wasn't tall.
No, okay.
In nippers, I was horrendous, like the worst swimmer at like a state level and stuff. I was a
fear
really
or
good
just
board paddler. No,
didn't have it?
really good board paddler, terrible swimmer. And it wasn't until probably like under 13s, 14s that I even swam half decent. So like at state titles, I won the board at New South Wales State 11s, 12s, 13s, 14s. But under 14s, I won the Ironman and the board. But every other year, like 11s, 12s, 13s, I could barely
swim.
Yeah, barely swim. So it wasn't until I actually got a little bit taller, under 17s and 19s, that I actually got that growth spurt, went tall. And Flatty used to always just give it to me. She was, because I actually was in Queenscliff with her when we were super young. We've known each other since we were very young. She actually used to bully me a lot when we were on interbranch trips and stuff. She used to roll me down the Bindi Hills.
Doesn't
and
sound
stuff
totally
like that. And
surprising.
yeah, she was always pretty scary. But now I tough up to her a little bit more. I can man up to her a little bit more.
A little bit.
A little
And
bit.
so I guess the big one starts with the under-17 Australian Championships, Currawong Beach.
Yes.
Yep.
So Currawong Beach. Yeah. And again, like I was sort of probably, I would say third, fourth, fifth-ish in my age group. But the best was a bit of a child prodigy, Ryan Lysart from North Burleigh. He was dead set, 2 foot
Bubbles?
and 20. Yeah, Bubbles.
Yep.
2 foot and 20 kilos bigger than all of us.
We've been on a big session of the Gravities, and you touted him as the most talented junior you've ever seen.
Yeah, he was. I think he went like 2 years without losing an Ironman or a surf race. Like he was just a monster of a kid, was like very mature, big boy, and just, was a freak. And we got to under 17s, and it was me, Bubbles, James Stewart, and Dan Moody after the board going into the swim leg, swimming around, got a body surf wave, and I held it to the beach. Bubbles got second. And he just like disappeared after that. After that year, it was
Put
just
him into
like,
retirement.
Yeah, put him in retirement early. I don't know, like he went off into rugby and stuff like that for a little while there, but yeah. Anyway,
So you win your under-17 Australian Ironman title, and then the move up north happens. Was that a phone call? Was that a desire to be better? How does that move happen?
I remember it was really challenging, tough, because I guess back then it was really frowned upon for the New South Wales athletes to go to Queensland. Nowadays, it's just almost like a rite of passage. Everyone seems to do it. And I love the ones that stand strong and, stay in New South Wales, the Lizzie Wellborns, all those very, very patriotic towards New South Wales. It's amazing. But yeah, so I got a phone call from Pat O'Keefe, and he basically said, really good opportunity, come up here, train with the best. If you want to be the best, got to be up here, blah, blah, blah. Sold me the whole dream.
Yep.
And yeah, look, I kind of took it hook, line and sinker. I did see it as a really good opportunity. And yeah, made the move to Northcliffe, moved into Nathan Bagley's house. That didn't work out too well, but the second house ended up a little bit better.
That's better.
Yeah, it's a bit better the second time around. And
Yeah.
and yeah, so I ended up as an under 19 in Northcliffe, going to Aussies, and had a lot of natural talent, but I had not a great work ethic. I was pretty cheeky, pretty lazy, and I like to be 18 and party and whatever else. I was, I got away with it. I won the under 19 Australian Ironman title over in Perth.
Yep.
Pierce won the Opens that year. We were like really good mates, and it was really cool. And I think after that was the first and only time that from the under-19 Australian Ironman title at Aussies, they gifted an automatic qualification into the series.
Mm-hmm.
And, I ended up, that off-season was like, all right, I had a bit of a falling out with Northcliffe, whatever else. And I went north to Mooloolaba because I was dating a girl called Gemma Newbigin, an Iron woman from Mooloolaba at the time. And moved in up there with her, Jack Hansen, the whole lot, and with and I met Michael King. And I'd met Kingy a few times through Gemma and stuff like that, but I sort of went up there with just like a real bad attitude and just a cheeky boy.
Yeah.
And God, we butt heads for a while there, in that off season and stuff. There was a few times where Kingy wanted to see the back door of me a few times. And
Did he show you the back door a few times? Being like, we just aren't cut for each other.
yeah,
Find a new club. It's time to go.
yeah. But I think it was it was weird, right? I felt really broken and defeated. It sounds weird, but after the under-19s, I kind of left Northcliffe. I'd been out of home for a little while. I was still adamant, like, I'm going back to New South Wales. Maybe I should just go back there. I kind of wasn't sure. Like, I was very much uncertain of, I guess a lot of people have like imposter syndrome, and I reckon I would put on a big shell of that from a very young age, right? Because as a nipper and stuff, I wasn't a Ryan Lysarder. I wasn't that, like, I was good on a board, but I had a lot of weaknesses in my game. And so I did always develop a little bit of an imposter syndrome, but I'd always mask it with this big bravado act and whatever else. And so after the under-19s, I can still remember, like, I sort of went up after I won the Ironman, and I said something to Pat O'Keefe. I was like, got it done. And he was like, he goes, mate, you just did what you were supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh,
Shit. Fully.
which is kind of right too.
But that was certainly
It
my,
was a hard
my
ass,
experience. My experience at Northcliffe, and like Duff was there as well. Like I was a junior. I missed you there, obviously, but that's very much how it felt at Northcliffe. Like winning wasn't cool. Winning was
gold medals is what you do.
Yeah,
and
like,
anything less than that, you haven't.
Like
done
I remember,
great.
I remember getting like second in an Aussie surf race and being pumped to get back to it, and nobody gave a flying fuck.
Nope.
It's like, mate, you just got 5 points. That's all you did.
Yeah.
Sit under the tent, be quiet.
Yeah.
Like that was very much the vibe when I was there at a young age as well.
That's how it kind of felt. And I was like pretty cheeky and stuff like that. I got in a little bit of trouble on that Aussie Sunday night, just razzing up a few of the older boys like Tate Smith, Nick Crilly.
Did you get hog-tied to a chair or something like that?
I don't know if we're going to go into this story.
Yeah.
So like, all week I was revving up the boys under the tent, like Tate Smith, Nick Crilly,
the ski brigade.
Rhodesy, big boys.
Big boys.
And I kept telling them, like, you can't bash me. It's Aussies. I got a race.
Yeah.
I got shit to do. You can't bash me. And they're like, we won't, but we'll get you on Sunday Arvo.
Yeah.
And even my dad was like, they're going to flog you after this. And I'm like, yup.
Yeah.
Anyway, I can remember the bus because we sat at Hillary's.
Yeah.
And we're in the bus and we're driving there. And on the way back, I can remember Pierce and Kane, because I was really close with Pierce Leonard and Kane Eckstein. And they sort of looked at me as we were about to pull in the driveway. And they sort of looked at me and I was like, oh, shit, something's about to go down. And as we pull in the driveway, there's just a chair sitting in the middle of the driveway. And Tate and Crilly come running down the minibus. I was like, oh, what's happening? And they grabbed me and they actually zip tied me to a chair in the middle of the thing. And like, as you can imagine, I've just won the under-19 Australian Ironman title. It's Aussie Sunday night. I'm like, I want to go out. I want to talk to girls. I want to be beating my chest. And they zip tied me in there and they put Nad's hair removal cream all through my hair. And I was just like heartbroken, like, no, I'm going to be going out looking like a thumb tonight. This is so bad. This is not good. And I can remember I'd called my dad about 10 minutes before and I said, oh, can you drop us off some money? I'm going out. And he's like, yeah, sweet, I'll come drop you. And Dad came out, pulls up and he like looks out and he sees me zip tied. I'm like, get us out. He's like, nah.
Just drove away.
Yeah.
And he went up, he gave like Pierce or Kane some money. I can remember as he like gave Pierce and Kane some money, I somehow just went bam and I like broke my the arms off the chair thing. And I was so scared because Crilly and Tate were big boys. I just remember running straight across that highway in Perth, jumped into the ocean. I was just scrubbing my
hair out.
Didn't lose much. I still went out that Sunday night. But we went to the Northcliffe dinner and I remember thinking like, oh, I got away with it, whatever else. And I went up to Rhodesy and Tate and I like pat him on the back. I said, oh, Truce boys, and they just grabbed me. I remember pulled me under the table and were just kicking me and stuff like this. I got flogged by them, and then I came out.
Eventually,
like,
truce. Eventually,
truce.
Yep,
Yeah,
good,
no,
good,
it was all
good.
good. So, so I ended up for nothing to do with any of that, but yeah, I think Northcliffe just wasn't Northcliffe wasn't the right fit for me. I think I was too young. I didn't have the work ethic or the experience. And Pat,
And it is a bit of glitz and glamour club, isn't it?
It is. And Pat was an incredible coach, right? But he was kind of a great coach when you're at the top of your sport.
When
and
you're
I
ready
wasn't
to
at
be
the
coached.
Correct.
Yeah.
I wasn't there yet. I still had a lot of growing and learning and discipline and a coach that needed to whip my ass and be like, you're not anywhere near
This isn't a
top of the
partnership.
mountain.
This is
Yeah. And
I own
so
you.
I went up with Kingy and he very much became that guy for me. He was effectively for me dad, because I was 19, 20, just bad attitude. I wanted to go out and drink and party, but I also wanted results. But it was all just a mess. And so we butt heads a lot over that off season. And I did 1 year with Northcliffe as an open. In that first year, went as expected, didn't work hard, didn't do all the right things. And in that very first year of Kellogg's racing, I messed up that story a little bit there. I got like last or second last and just got exactly what I deserved. And that was when I was like, right, I'm going to go back to Sydney. It's not working, blah, blah, blah. And that was when I sort of went, Kingy goes, come up here, give me a chance with you. Let's see what we can do. And I was like, maybe 50-50. I'm either going back to Mooloolaba, continue the Ironman dream, or I'm going back to Sydney and probably going to give up. And I went up to Sunny Coast. And 6 months of just butting heads, because Kingy is just rides you. Like you sleep in, he's on the phone to you, calling you every morning. He wants to know every minute, every play, every hour of the day that you're there. And he was what I needed, but not what I wanted.
Yep.
And so that very first off season, we absolutely grinded. Went down to the trials in Wanda, won the trials as a 19 or maybe 19-year-old, and then I went on that year in the series and got third.
Yep.
So second year in the
Were
series.
you wearing red that year?
Yeah,
I remember it.
Yeah, so I was first year in the series, second last. Next year, won the trials, got third in the series.
I'm just sort of trying to think. You then went pretty topsy-turvy with your results over the next sort of 15 years in the Iron Series, didn't you?
Yeah.
Was that just a mindset thing? Was it a training thing? Why did you have so many inconsistent results? Because obviously you're reaching these height of all heights, and then the next year might have been a down year. Was it a training thing? Was it a mentality? What do you think pushed you into that sort of, not inconsistency, but really topsy-turvy?
I think the biggest thing, and I've always sort of maintained, is that our sport is like an apprenticeship, right? You get all you guys that do nippers or whatever else, and they go good and win junior Ironman titles. And in my eyes, that's not even year one of your apprenticeship, right? That's just like if you're even going to if you're made with the right stuff in the cloth, or you're not there. Once you sort of start and decide, like, I'm a professional Ironman, and I'm making the series, like that level, that's kind of year one of an apprenticeship. And I always sort of said it was 4 years as a trade, of just absolutely no bullshit, not missing sessions, grind. And that was what I did with Kingy. And so many people are very saw the back end of my career, or saw, the party boy and the glitz and the glamour, but very, very few actually saw the apprenticeship Poole. And that was the first 4 years where I didn't, during season, didn't drink, not even at all, really. Maybe at the end of the Ironman series, we might have a couple of drinks, and then obviously at Aussies in the off season we would. But during the season, we just wouldn't. Kingy wouldn't allow it, and I didn't do it. And I was also up there. I was really close with Jack Hansen, and Jack Hansen didn't even drink alcohol. So we had this culture, right, where Kingy just made you buy in and believe wholeheartedly. And from that first year, for me, I bought into it because I went last to third, and I'm like, this guy knows what's
Trust the
up.
process, right?
Yeah. And I, again, when I say I got third, I still had massive imposter syndrome. I was standing on the podium at the end of overall in the series. Shannon was first, Zane Holmes second, I was third.
Fuck.
It was, I think Nathan
podium,
Smith was
eh?
fourth, Dean Mercer was fifth, and then it was like, so it was like some great athletes. And I was, 19 years old, standing there with these guys, and I'm like, these guys are way better than me. But I kind of knew, like, I've got the goods, I've got the recipe, but you got to bake the cake, you know. You've got the ingredients, but you got to bake the cake. And that baking the cake is 4 or 5 years. And that's why I think there was moments of greatness, but there was also a lot of inconsistencies and holes in my game. And so I had a lot of ups and downs in series, but I'd always get wins and stuff.
Yeah.
And I had some incredible wins or moments. But within that series, I'd always have one fuck up. I found one fuck up, and that would be enough to put me back to 4th, 5th, 6th in a series. And so that's when I sort of say, like, you do your apprenticeship 4 or 5 years, whatever it is. And then from there, you've kind of got the tools to go out and either go on to be the champion and win back-to-back series and go on and do great things. Or if you're cutting shortcuts in that apprenticeship, your career is going to be well short, and it's certainly not going to be that. And you're not going to be sort of considered in the greats of the sport sort of thing, you know.
When you got to Mooloolaba, like, were you there more or less by yourself for a couple of years? Because, like, you know, we talk about the golden age of Mooloolaba where it was, you know, Ali, Bevy, Kendrick, you know, we remember all the names. Were they all there when you got there, or when did they all start coming? And what was that transition like? Who were you training with in that time till that all started to take flight?
Yeah, no, that they were very much later in the piece. When I first got there, Jack Hansen was already there. Tim Peach was there. He had about a year or two left, sort of thing. Dean Mercer did 1 year with us at the start. Dylan Newbig and Josh Minot got there the same time as me. And
Reese Drew?
Reese Drury was, I can't remember if he was at the start. He had to come back where he did a couple of years in the Kellogg's, but that was kind of later in the piece when like Ali and Kendrick and stuff were there. I think Reese was done when I first got back there, but he made a comeback sort of maybe when we were 3 or 4 back into it all. So there was, Mooloolaba was always renowned for board and ski paddlers. You know, you got guys like Megan Meredith, Reese Drury, Dean Mercer was there, Tim Peach, all those guys. They were kind of at the back end or even retired. So we were that new crop of Mooloolaba athletes, myself and Jack and Josh soon to be. And look, we just like sort of bought into Kingy's program and there was no bullshit. We just went so hard for probably 4 or 5 years, maybe even more. I think year 2 or 3 for me was when Ali came up. The year after that was Kendrick, and maybe Bevy was the same year as Kendrick or something like that. It was all a bit of a blur for me now, exact years. But so myself and Josh Minogue basically lived together the entire time on the Sunshine Coast, and in that time we had Tibbets live with us, we had Cam Cole come and live with us, and Bevy lived with me for probably 5 years there, and then I took my son down the Gold Coast, and we had another couple more years down there.
So speaking of,
you go. I just want to. Yeah, you go, Duffo.
You go.
I just want to touch on, like, it very much feels like a brotherhood that you guys created up there. Like, you're all still each other's best friends, more or less. You know, for the most part. What was that like? You know, because I certainly can't empathise with a situation like that. Obviously, the guys I train with are my friends, but I don't have best friends in the game like you, not let alone 6 of them who are all trying to achieve the same thing as me. What was that like for you guys, like being in your early 20s, you know, at Mooloolaba, where you could argue it's the biggest sport on the coast up there? You know, you're all, for the most part, kind of superstars. What's it kind of like going through that with 6, 7, 8 of your best friends all trying to do the same thing? Is that hard? What was that like relationship-wise? Like, what were some of the dynamics there?
It was, at the heights of it, it was tense, to say the least, for sure. It just had to be. Like, at the start, I kind of felt like I was the first one up there, and because, you know, Jack retired maybe a year or 2 within of me being up there. And I kind of felt like I was here first, you know. I was Kingy's golden child, and then you're kind of recruiting more and more, and it was just getting bigger and bigger. And so there was definitely, like, we knew it was what we needed to try and chase Shannon Eckstein down on the Gold Coast, because he was just doing crazy shit. And Ali coming up there, Kendrick, Luke Huff, Josh Minogue, Alex Tibbetts, Cam Cole, Whitey came up as well. Like that's just some of the names. I've probably forgotten some.
There's probably, yeah.
That was all guys that have either won Australian Ironman titles, raced multiple Kellogg series, won Coolangatta Golds, won Kellogg series, World Ocean series. Like that resume amongst those 8 athletes that I just named alone is massive. In part, most of it's early days, but we shared a fair couple of results.
It's
the rest of us,
effort.
It's team effort.
And so sessions got tough, and they did start to break off into little groups. Definitely, Ali kind of became really fixated in his whole world of sport and the professionalism that he got into at the start. I won't release any of Ali's skeletons. He doesn't have many, but he used to party with us. He used to drink a little bit.
It's a shallow closet.
It's a shallow closet.
Ali Day loved a cider back in the day.
Yeah.
And we're still, don't get me wrong when I say this, we're all still very, very close. We're best mates. But there was definitely that level of his like, hey, there's work. You're still the best mate, but now I'm going to be a professional athlete. And we did keep our cards pretty close to our chest. Even me living at home with Josh Minogue and Bevy, when we were all racing and competing each other, we lived together, but like there was a lot of shit where we would do on our own or not tell each other, you know? And
For sure.
so
Just
there
to
was
get that
that
little
level
edge.
of it. Yeah. You've got it. You've got to be selfish with sacrifice. And if you're doing something that others aren't, you're not going to tell them and you don't want them to know. And so Ali kind of did recluse into his little inner circle, right? And his inner circle are still very much all there. You know, they're all really close.
Yep.
And Kingy was a part of that and had to be. And, you know, Kendrick was kind of closer with, say, Jackson Doolan and Luke Huff and those boys. So there was a little bit of a dynamic
Kind of
breakup.
fractions inside a bigger sort of pie.
Yeah. I mean, there was just too much testosterone and bravado for it to coexist any other way, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, at the height of it, there was one point where I think me, Ali and Kendrick were, you know, all 3 of us were in the top 4 or 5 of the series. So, like,
It's hard to juggle, isn't
how are you
it?
getting past those guys when they're seeing every move on the chessboard?
Do you know you're in it when you're in it? Like, did you guys appreciate what you had when you were there? Or do you look back now as, you know, 36-year-old Matt Poole and go, you know, fuck, you know, not that I wish I took advantage of it, but did you realize how good you had it when you had it?
I can wholeheartedly say I don't think I would have been half the athlete I was had I not done that 5 or 6 years with Kingy. There's no doubt about it. Like, the weird thing is I didn't actually achieve many, if any, of my top tier results with Kingy. You know, little ones here and there, maybe winning Bondi or the Coolum round, which was my first, and stuff like that, little ones. But the significant sort of big races, big moments, big wins, whether it be the series or runner-up in a gold or World
Aussie
Ocean
Iron
Series
podiums.
and stuff,
Yep.
Aussie Iron podiums. That wasn't with Kingy, you know, but all of that was testament to the athlete he made me in the build-up to that, from taking that year
Hard
1
line.
apprentice through to year 4, and now, right, spread your wings and go fly free, son.
Yeah.
Sink or swim.
Obviously, living in with Josh and Bevy and Jack, I reached out to them and asked a few questions, and
he did.
They mentioned about your OCD and cleanliness, and that you're the big dog around the training shed, but then you got home and you also ran the household by your rules, and that if anything was left on the kitchen bench, it was in the trash.
I know for sure Bevy's still sooking about his under-14 AFL MVP ball. I know for sure.
What was it?
It was an MVP.
God.
It was
Never heard the
Bevy's
end of
under
this.
15 levered Jetstar MVP ball that was in pristine condition. For whatever reason, he had it out on the kitchen bench, and
My house, my rules. And I am a like absolute sucker. It sucks, but I'm so OCD, and I think a lot of athletes are. I speak to some athletes, and they're so meticulous with just lining shit up and mess. And it's not because I'm not like a necessarily super clean, tidy guy in the sense of like, you know, scrub the toilets and the showers, you know, once a week or stuff like that. but it's meticulous things like I don't want stuff on the bench. My bedside tables are clean.
Yeah.
Never leave a cupboard door open. All those little.
I like certainly from an athlete perspective. I think now people take a lot of pride in kind of way their gear looks and their stickers.
Yeah.
And I'd have to give you the nod. Like, you made it cool to make your shit look tidy. You know what I mean? Like, stickers had to be in the right spot.
Oh.
Like, I remember you being just so over the top with that stuff.
So Kingy also spoke with him and he said Poole was the only one that did it, and he did it constantly, where he would pick his board up and his ski up and look down the line of it and like check that everything was in order and in place. Like he had an idea what he was looking at, but like he said he just did it constantly. It was just a force of habit that you always had to do.
What is it, like an idiosyncrasy? Is that what it is?
I don't know.
I developed this thing where I just look at the bottom of my board and feel the rails and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that was a bad one, but the boys knew the rules. Don't leave shit on the kitchen bench. And Bevy left this leather AFL ball. I didn't know it was a trophy at the time. It was just a leather AFL ball. And I just went and put it in the bin, didn't say anything about it. The weekend passed, took the bins out, whatever else, gone. And he was like, hey, has anyone seen my under
Best
15 best and fairest leather Jetstar ball? And I was like, was that the one that was on the bench on Saturday? And he's like, yes. Why? And I was like, nah, I haven't seen it. And he worked out it was bin day. The bins are out the front. He knew what had happened. And I lied about it for like 2 years. I was like, dude, I don't know where it's gone. I don't know. It's an AFL ball. It's
we finally buy another one. It's not a big deal.
It's not an NRL ball. I don't want it.
Bevy reckons it was so far if you left the car keys on the bench, then the car keys were binned. It was like, just don't leave anything on the bench.
That's funny.
Yeah. Speaking of your craft always looking unreal and in good order, obviously the stickers and the brands and the sponsors. Now, there has been and there may never be, and who knows, hopefully we get to a point where we have Matt Poole 2.0. You'll tell us it's not possible, but
it's not.
It isn't. I'll tell you.
The brand
can't be
deals,
replicated, never imitated. No.
The brand deals you managed to land as an athlete, one, how? And two, some of the stories out of those are unbelievable. So let's just go into it. What brand deals did you have? Because at one point you had Red Bull, and that was the biggest brand in the world.
But you had Nike,
Reebok.
I remember like Poole's a few years older than me, but I remember growing up, and I remember this bloke having Smeg, which is a white goods company. He's got fucking dishwasher and shit. And I remember thinking, what is this guy into? He's got Smeg on his board and ski. This is diabolical.
Dad used to work for Smeg, and they flicked me some coin.
I remember thinking it was pretty fucking cool. I remember
it did look good under the Nike swoosh.
Yeah, with the circles. Yeah, for sure. How did that all come about? Was that something that you chased individually? Was that something you wanted to do, or did you kind of just fall backwards into finding yourself with the profile enough to attract those sorts of things?
Yeah, look, one of the biggest things, and I think guys like Bevy and Josh would wholeheartedly agree with this, and it was probably, I always had a really good understanding for commercial value across like a marketing landscape with brands, events, and athletes. Yeah. And I understood and would be fascinated by areas and verticals that brands would play within. And I also did a little bit of work with identifying my personality and overall what I wanted to be and
what the Matt Poole brand looked like.
What the Matt Poole brand, exactly right. What does Matt Poole as a brand look like? And I think I worked out at a young age. There's athletes that race for legacy and a resume, and there's athletes that race for money, fame, and fortune.
Want to get the bag.
Yep. And there's two, right? Shannon Eckstein and even Ali Day, I would say somewhat. They race for pride, honour, legacy, and not to say they don't care about sponsors, but it seems secondary to them. Ali has a million sponsors, as did Shannon, but they kind of just got that on the back of how good their resume and results were, right? Whereas I was someone that always wanted to have commercial drive and be a professional athlete. And when I say a professional athlete, I would always say that what I do in the water is 50% of the work. It's what I do outside of the water is the other 50%. And so Red Bull was a big one in the series. So after I got third in the series, Nutrigrain picked me up. I was sponsored by Kellogg's Nutrigrain. That was pretty big at the time because I was so young. I think I was like at the time one of the youngest that they ever signed. I remember that year they actually ran a national campaign with posters on bus signs and shopping malls all around the country.
I can see them still. I can still envision those.
Because it was Zane Holmes with the ski on his shoulder, the big grey one, and it's like Nutrigrain for the Ironman.
Yeah.
And then it was Nutrigrain for the boy in the Ironman, and it was a photo of me with the ski on my shoulder, and I think that was sort of alluding to that, like he's the boy and he's our king, you know, in Zane. And so from a young age, I had Nutrigrain, which is really cool. That kind of like was a really good opportunity with a big brand as Kellogg's. And a year later, Red Bull came on as a series sponsor. That was in 2010-11. And I'd sort of done a little bit of background work, and I sort of knew the sort of personality types, we call it, that Red Bull sort of go after. And I knew the athlete manager, and you go out there and it was Simon Barrett, and I went and sort of always made sure before and after every race I'd go up and shake his hand, say hello, what a good job they're doing, love your brand presence, blah, blah, blah. I'm your guy, sponsor me. No, I didn't say that part till later. And basically he told me one time that as an introduction, Red Bull, because everything has to get signed off by Austria, they're a big private global company. Australia has to pitch to Austria what sports and athletes are getting across the line. So Ironman series basically got across the line as a test trial event. If it was successful, year 2, they'd look to adopt an athlete. And I was like, fuck, how good is it going to, who is that? And funny enough, it actually came down to me and Kane Eckstein that I knew that it came down to me, Kane Eckstein and Ali. And then that was the year 2010-11. I went out, I raced with pink hair, pretty out there, pretty loud. Got the Bondi win, went out and partied with Simon Barrett and stuff after, had a few beers, and finished runner-up in the series and stuff like that. So they actually gave me Red Bull Rookie of the Year, and then from that I ended up signing with Red Bull. So
that was also an award in my first year in 2014-15, and I got a carton of Red Bull.
I got a Red Bull sponsorship.
So that kind of like alludes me to basically a question that I've certainly talked to you about on the piss before, but something that our listeners would probably be very intrigued on. When you set out, you know, to be influential, to be the Ironman that you are today, and the household name in our sport that we see you as, did you dare to be different, or did you just let Matt Poole, the person, come through and that shed light on the athlete you are, or was it a commercial decision for you to go, you know what, I'm actually going to set myself apart and try and be different? Or were you just different in an age of Ironman where, for lack of a better word, there weren't a lot of characters, and you were a character? Did you try and be a character, or was that just the way that we painted you, or did you try and do that?
Look, it's got to be authentic, right? You can't have, you got apples and oranges, and any one of, too much of any one isn't great. It's got to be authentic. So I think it was who I was, but I was also aware of what I was trying to portray. You know, when I was racing in the series, there was a lot of guys that just wanted to race. They didn't want to do anything outside of that. They didn't care about being the big personality. Having said that, when I was growing up, guys that I loved and guys I remembered was Phil Clayton and Wesberg for different reasons. Wesberg was always super out there. He dyed his hair. He stood out in the crowd. He won races, but he wasn't the best. He wasn't a Shannon or Zane, but he was remembered and he was memorable, as was Clado. Clado, I still remember, always raced with that black carbon board. He had the big black snake on the board. He stood up at Piha going down that massive wave. He just did it with a bit of
character, didn't he? Yeah.
A little bit of character, and because of that, he was memorable. And that always made me realise, right, like, you got to go down. You got to be remembered. You got to create highlight reels. When we talk about highlight reels, a lot of the big moments and things that I've done have created highlight reels that people still talk about.
For sure. And
so, yes, I was aware of that, but it was also authentic and natural to me. That came naturally to me. You couldn't have put Ali Day's not out there punching skis, dyeing his hair pink, or
pushing Shannon Eckstein over.
Nah. You know.
No, that is a good answer to that question.
And there's no, he's the hero, and I didn't want to always play the villain, but I was happy to wear that cape sometimes.
Did you feel pressure from other Ironmen? Because again, like I throw back to a time where you kind of, certainly for me, it didn't feel like you're allowed to express yourself. You weren't allowed to be cool. So for me, when I look, someone who I looked up to was you, because I'm like, no, this guy actually kind of doesn't care what the status quo is. He's happy to be outside of it, live outside of it. Did you feel any external pressure from Ironman or the sport to kind of rein it in? Or did people actually say, hey, mate, take it back? Or, you know what I mean? Can you shed light on that?
Then I just pumped the gas
like,
even more. I think definitely.
Did it come to a point where you just started leaning into it?
Yeah. So the biggest one was going out, because like we sort of spoke about before, I had that one where I won the trials at Wanda, had a good year, then I had a shit year, had to re-qualify again, right? The year with the pink hair, I was out of the series and had to trial. Went to Chugan, won the trials again at Chugan. And in that off-season, in partnership with National Breast Cancer Foundation, where I was an ambassador, I was like, I'm going all in this series. Like, I'm coming out with a big, like, here I am sort of moment. And I think in part, I can remember that was like me to go like, I'm going to put the biggest fucking target on my own back. Because if you're going out and racing with pink hair and a pink board and ski, you better go and do something.
Better perform.
You better do something. And so when I kind of said that I'm doing that, I think that was like my motivation or inspiration to go like, you need to do something cool here. And so racing with the pink hair, there was definitely a lot of boys on the start line that are like, what are you doing? Like, who are you? And I was like, I'll tell you.
It's still like that year, like that's 2010, 11. That's still one of the most iconic years of racing. Everyone still remembers pink hair Poole. And then that Bondi round, was that your first series win?
No, it wasn't first. That was my second. But first was Coolum in 2009. So 2009 was my first ever series win at Coolum. And then 2011 was Bondi. That was my second with the pink hair.
Yeah.
That was a five race eliminator.
I remember it.
And then that set you up to go on and win the series.
Second in the series, 1 point.
But set you up. You were in the box seat though, right?
Yeah,
and you
had a really good lead on the series and butchered it a little bit.
You kind of pushed it a little bit too hard, and then Shannon had a good Saturday, and then you had to race on the Sunday, and it was pretty close on the Sunday between the two of you, but he got you by like a point, didn't he?
After Kingy hates me telling this story. It actually, when you talk about missed opportunities in the career, I've had a few big ones, but this is probably up there. So I had a third in the first round. And then I had the win at Bondi, had a really good lead on the series. And Kingy said, boom, we're racing Coolum 2 weeks from now. You're on, let's just knuckle down. I said, absolutely. I went to the pub, got absolutely blind, ended up sick as a dog. And was so sick the week of the race, had a really bad chest infection, and was coughing. I don't know if anyone saw it, remembers the video, but we did an enduro. Hugh Doherty ended up going on to get the win, and I raced with bronchitis, and I literally collapsed over the finish line and had like a 11th or 12th or something like that, and was just like devastated because the next 2 rounds I had a 4th and a 3rd. So I had a 3rd, a 1st, a 4th and a 3rd and a 12th, and I lost the series by 1 point. So even at Coolum, if I got a 10th.
Yeah, that was enough.
And that was like a bit of a still young Poole, thinking he's all this and that, and a little bit of a reminder like there's work to be done, son. You're not quite there yet. So that was a bit of a slip through the keepers.
All right. This episode of Tent Talk is brought to you by the team at Personalised Property Professionals, the team of Brian and Lisa. It goes by the name of Happy, and happy you will be if you go with the team.
Oh, that is a perfect segue.
It's great, isn't it?
And what do they specialise in, Duff?
Mate, they specialise in everything. They're the full package when it comes to property and
like
being the professionals.
Rentals,
investments, DIY, auction bidding. Like you get the nerves at auction. It's hard. It's testing.
It's not for everybody.
It's testing ground. It's not for everyone. Happy will go to war for you. He will go in there with the paddle.
Yep.
And he will bid for you at auction.
Yep.
So look, they are professionals. They've been doing this for years now. They're a little boutique buyers agency. They only take on just a handful of clients at a time. So with Happy and Lisa that you're getting looked after. You're getting the first class, A-class service.
I love that. I love boutique anything. We've got a sponsor of this week pod as well that we're going forward with as well. And then obviously a little boutique service paradise as well. So I'm very familiar with the boutique outfit stuff.
Well, that's it. You and I, we've both got a mortgage. We've
Very
been in
much.
the trenches. But for those that haven't been in the trenches, for those that maybe need to invest in the world of rent vesting, Brian and Lisa, they've got you there as well.
What's rent vesting?
Well, rent vesting is where you live where you love
Right.
and you invest where it counts.
Okay. That sounds like a bit of me.
Think of it this way, Beats. You're a Warilla Barrack Point boy.
I am.
You train up at Surfers Paradise. Maybe you can't afford Surfers Paradise. Maybe it's too big. Maybe it's too hard. Go back home. Buy in Warilla Barrack Point. Have the family home you always dreamed of. Rent in Surfers Paradise where you can afford. And whammo, bammo, you're in the market.
Best of both worlds.
Best of both worlds. So for those that want to reach out and see the team at Personalised Property Professionals, jump online, www.personalisedpropertyprofessionals.com today and let them know you're in there to build your future.
And you know what?
One property at a time.
Tell them Duff and Beats sent you.
Tell them.
It might mean nothing, but it might mean something.
It will mean everything to Happy and Lisa. We're happy to have them on board here at 10 Talk, and we can't wait for this long-lasting partnership just to build, like your property portfolio will, one property at a time.
Beautiful.
Reach out, get in the DMs if you can't get onto Personalised Property DM, and we'll put you in touch. And with all the brand deals, and I want to go into the Red Bull one with a little bit more details because I've heard some of the Red Bull stuff before, and I think it's amazing the life experiences that you've had through these brand deals and these sponsorships. Just run us through some of them because there's a list of 100 of them. Just run us through some of them. You've played tennis with Andy Murray.
Yep.
You've been in an F1 with Mark Webber or Dan Ricciardo.
Yep.
Sorry. You've jumped in a plane with Matt Hall.
Yeah,
And done the whole aerial show that we see every time at the
cool.
Shannon and on the
really
weekend at the Swansea Belmont challenge. You went over to Austria and did all the testing.
Yeah.
You held the record for one of the tests. Is
Yeah,
that right?
the arm crank. The crank.
Like the
sailors
Americans
do
Cup,
it.
the sailing.
Grind- grinding.
The grinding. That's it. The grinding. So when I went over there to Austria, it was the most ridiculous set. It is typical, just like Red Bull WTF sort of scenario. They flew me to Austria and solo. And I can remember I was so young. I got in at like 3 a.m. I'd never driven on the other side of the road in my life. It was skits. I still remember being so scared. I was like, didn't even have an international SIM back then, right? And I was driving and all the signs were in, different language. And I was like, I'm just going to pull my car over and sleep on the side of the road for the night. I've got no idea where I am. And I ended up finding my accommodation and whatever else. And it's called the Red Bull DTC Centre, Diagnostics and Training Centre. It's basically this huge barn shed from the outside, just looks like a big barn. You open it up and it is the full-blown like scientists in lab
Space
coats.
age type thing.
It is
Test
crazy.
tubes, Bunsen burners.
Yes, it
To name a
is
few.
crazy stuff. And so I spent a week doing all this testing with everything. I remember they were
What were they
doing-
testing for? Like, what was the purpose of
They
it?
gave me, they gave me this A4 like folder at the end of it with all my data, all my results. And I remember I came back and I gave it to my sports psych to digress and read after that when I did, because like I was kind of, this means nothing to me, so to speak.
Someone makes sense
I
of
just
it.
got no reference to base it off, but it would have been so cool now to look at. But we did everything, all your lactates, your VO2s, all that sort of stuff. But the weirdest stuff for me was I can still remember, well, we did the F1 reaction one on the wall and stuff like that. But we were doing like tests in front of the computer where it'd give you these random weird questions and you had to answer it right, but it wasn't necessarily checking the answer. It was more measuring. I had this weird cap on my head, my brainwave, like the stress response in my brainwave. So like, do I see something that I don't know? Say it gives me what's the square root of some ridiculous number. Does my brain go buzz and start sending out like cortisol, stress and blah, blah, blah? Or do I see a stressful situation and stay really low heart rate and whatever else? So I was measuring things like that. So the answers weren't the goal. It was more just seeing how do you react under stress, which is, I think, so crazy, especially in our sport, in surf.
Yeah.
You're going out, you're leading a wave, 6-foot wave comes. Do you wet the bed or do you go, I need to do this?
Yeah.
Bang.
Crisis management.
Yeah.
Correct. So they did all that sort of testing. It was one of the coolest things. And looking back at experiences like that, I was just like so unbelievably fortunate to get opportunities like that. That one was probably right up there. The only thing that I did that was better than that was the Acheron challenge with Kai Lenny, Ian Walsh, and a guy called Rafa Ortiz. He's from Mexico. He does the waterfall kayaking. He had the world record for the biggest thing. But we basically, again, a guy called Andy Walsh, who's their head of high performance in Red Bull LA. He became famous because he orchestrated the Felix Baumgartner jumping out of space Red Bull project. Yep. That was his project. He is actually an Aussie guy from Lennox that grew up doing surf ski paddling but has lived in LA for years. He designed this project with University San Diego, USD, and with their neuroscientists or whatever it is, testing stress responses, mechanisms within high-performance athletes. So they designed a project where they wanted to get high-performance athletes, take them out of their comfort zone, i.e. for me, Kyle Lenny, and Wash, water, waves, surf, put us in an environment that was completely foreign to us and see how we responded and reacted under the unknown. The whole thing was the element of the unknown. So they got us, the four of us. We went to Patagonia, South America. We had 2 ex-Navy SEALs that were 2 of the nicest, but like gnarliest guys I've ever met in my life. And we had a Patagonian local that went with us. They didn't tell us when we were leaving, how long we're going for, what we're doing, or anything like that. Every day it was like, when they tell us to wake up, we wake up. When they tell us to go to sleep, we go to sleep. When they tell us to walk, we walk. You know, they say jump, we say how high. And we did that for, I think it ended up being like 7 or 8 days. Ian Walsh and Rafa both got rescued, taken out on global rescue just because they blew their knees out from the hiking. We had like 20, 25 kilo massive big backpacks on. We had things called crampons on. You probably don't know what they are. No. I didn't at the time. I only do because of this stupid thing. It's basically like ice pick boots. So when you're walking on glaciers, so you don't fall into like the crevasses.
Spreads the thing.
Yeah, you basically stomp on them and stuff like that. We had all this safety shit that I didn't know how to use. So even if I got into it,
it's all useless.
I was the first gone. If shit was going into the crisis, I was hand up, I'm gone. And like I can still remember some of the stuff. They were like, see those crevasses, like big cracks in glaciers. They're like, they can go 1K down. We have 300 meters of rope on us total. Yeah. So if you, because they kept telling me, they're like, stop scuffing your feet, Aussie boy. Pick up your feet and step with the crampon. It's like you're walking on the moon, right? Yeah. Pick up your foot, place it in front of you. I was dragging my feet. He's like, if you catch your crampons, the blades, and you fall down into a glacier, you go down in that crevasse. We don't even have rope to get you. You'll stay down there till you freeze and die. I was like,
fuck, that's so heavy.
Copy that. Pick it up. March on.
High knees.
God, high knees.
That's crazy.
So that project was like unbelievable. So me and Kyleni actually, we made it to the top of a mountain that hadn't actually been navigated before. We actually got to the top of a mountain in Patagonia and put our flag in it with our names on it. And it's in South America and Patagonia. And that was me, Kyleni. We had 1 Navy SEAL with us. 1 had to go back with Rafa and Ian. And we had the Patagonian local with us as well. We did that.
That is just
skits.
Complete madness.
Yeah.
Like,
and there was so much other there was one other night in between that story, right, where we were trying to get to the top of it. And we just got lost on this mountain. And me and Kai thought we're like, these guys are just messing with us. And they were like, we're actually lost. Like it was, I think we'd been up at 3 a.m. hiking all day. They told us, all right, we're going to sit down. We're going to pitch here for the night. And we did. And then an hour later, they said, right, pack it up. We're going again. We're like, what? Had a massive day. We're walking. They're like, we're going. So we had to pack our stuff. And they said, we're going to the top of this mountain. And it was like 5 p.m. like getting dark. And we're like, what in the hell? And we ended up getting lost in this mountain. And I can remember being so tired, so fatigued. And at a point where we were scaling like these rocks and stuff. And it was big drops. And I remember thinking like, if I fall, like,
this is it.
I'm dead.
Yeah.
Like, at what point is this beyond a project? And this is now, this is stupid.
This feels borderline irresponsible.
Yeah, and as you can imagine, I sort of like, I'm not short on coming out with my words. Yeah, I was throwing some cuss words around and stuff like that. I was off it. But we ended up making it to the top of this mountain. It was a wild experience. And, it was just, again, it was an experience that I honestly don't even think money can buy. It was literally an experience that just like, crazy. They actually made a documentary on it. I was telling someone this not long ago. Went they played it around America on NBC. It was a 1 hour documentary. It's called Acheron, Acheron. Anyway, you can still Google it and watch the thing.
I'll have
It's
to
pretty
watch
wild.
it.
Oh,
It's pretty weird.
This is
That's
why we need a link tree so we can post this
yeah,
stuff.
we'll get
Ben,
onto that.
it's episode 50.
The intern.
It's episode 50. I don't know why hasn't he created a link tree yet?
Don't know.
Come on, Reno.
Far out.
I'll do it right now.
Fuck, I don't even know where to go after that. It's just absolutely blown my mind. Let's go then to your first Iron Series. The victory comes down to final race against arguably your 1A, 1B, Shannon Eckstein and you, toe-to-toe, sprint finish. Whoever wins the series.
Yeah, fuck. When you talk about big moments, I mean, obviously, I'm probably very biased, but this was like something that people had scripted in the Sport Gods or Surf Life Saving Sport Gods, in the sense of like myself and Shannon had this crazy battle for a number of years, and he got the better of me every single time. Basically, he was just so dominant. Beating Shannon in one Kellogg's race was like hard. Beating Shannon in a series for like, I can't tell you how many years on the sunny coast, me, Kingy, Ali, Kendrick, Bevy would just look at each other and be like,
How?
How? Like, even when you're in front of him, sometimes he would have, every now and then he'd have like what would seem like a bit of a bad start or a bad race, but he'd put himself in a position where this wave would miraculously pop up for him and pull himself back out of like a shitty situation. And he'd be like, how does he always do this? He was just, I don't need to go on about how incredible Shannon is. Everyone knows. But it was he was going for his 10th Ironman series title, and I was in my 10th year it was my 10th series. And we went into North Cronulla. It was 3 races, whatever. We had one apiece. Me and Shannon, we were locked in for a tie. And I remember that Saturday night going like, how many times have I gone into this position, going into the final day, and I'm close, like closer than ever this time. We are locked. Yep. We're in a dead point score. Whoever wins tomorrow wins the series, right? But I've like, how many series had I countless, where I was going in and I was like, oh, if I win and he gets 3rd or 4th, I get the series. And it never eventuates. No. And so I was just like, a big part of me was like, I'm never going to get a series. Like, I can remember that night going out to dinner with mum and dad and just being like, if this doesn't happen tomorrow, I'm adamant it's never happening for me. Like, it's just not. I'll be good, but I was never meant to win a series. And that's just how it's going to unfold, right? And we get into the first race. So it's an eliminator. Shannon doesn't lose eliminators either, which made it equally more daunting. First race, as usual, Shannon's out in front, looking like he's in second gear. Heart rate's probably resting heart rate. And I like just scraped through the first race. And Dad's like, fuck, you got to find something here. And I'm like, I hate this guy. Yeah. He's too good. And race 2, a little bit better. Got through. Race 3, we're on the line. And I was just like, this is it. I got one race to win a series, or I'm never doing it in my career. We jump on the ski, bang. I had a flying ski start. Me and Shannon are out side by side. I'm like, that is all I needed. Because normally Shannon nails his start and then he never looks like losing from there. Yeah. I'm like, holy moly, I'm in there. We jump around the ski, come in same wave. We swim around together. We're swimming in and I'm just hanging onto his toenails like, this guy gets swim waves all the time. You let his feet go, the series is gone. And we ended up getting this little body wave. We stand up, we run around. Ali was kind of just behind us, not too far. And we run around, pick up the board. We're paddling around. And I kind of got to the front and Ali was just a little bit back. And we're paddling, coming in. And I remember I got down, I was on this runner and I could just see the entire crowd and the beach in front. It was all I was looking at was the finishing arch. And I was on the top of this run and it was like a 50-50. And I was rating. And I remember I just pulled off the back of it. And I literally heard the whole crowd go, oh. I'm like, I'm not even turning around. He's on the next wave. He's definitely on that next wave, isn't he? Turned around, Shannon's on, Ali's on. And we're just like, boom, sprint finish. And like, normally he's not that quick up the beach. But then on this day, he just went full Super Saiyan again, doing Shannon shit. And I was just
it wasn't a stock standard sprint finish because you had that bank, then the gutter. So you both got up with your boards first.
Yeah.
And then you have to go across that bank, then do a skim, and then you got to go and skim. and he probably has you off the first couple of meters.
Definitely.
So
He was. That's what I mean.
You beat me
we
to it.
stood up, and
Yeah.
I was like, "Nah, this guy's going to do me in a sprint finish," which is like the one thing that I would have thought I
You had on
can
him.
confidently get him in. And he was just like an edge in front, and we did this skim, and I was just rating and up, and the run up the beach was just like psychotic.
Because I can't remember if you're on the inside or the outside, but one thing I do know is that your water was a little bit deeper. And I remember like there's a bird's eye view of it. And I remember thinking like, is he going to get out of this hole and start getting some momentum? And then probably like just the last step, it kind of all started working out for you.
Yeah.
And you obviously got the W, but like I said, I remember I don't know if you remember this. I actually messaged you the night before because I put $100 on you because you were paying like you're paying like $370. You're paying something really good.
Yeah,
and he
I'm
wasn't
still
paying
waiting for my
much.
cut on it.
Yeah, and so it was Harriet Brown. I put $100 on each year. I had a really good little payday. But
How good was that?
neither here nor there. What was that Shannon era like for you? Because obviously, like, you know, you're his shadow there for a long time, and I don't mean shadow as in a lesser, but you were right there, Velcro. You know what I mean? Like you spent a lot of time on his sidewash, giving him a lot of grief. You know, there's obviously that infamous, you know, round down in Newcastle where I don't want to say anybody pushed anybody, but someone fell over and someone else got a win.
I'm not coming on the podcast.
what
What
was-
was a push?
Well, yeah,
We ain't doing that.
you're going to the grave with that.
I'm taking that to the grave.
But just shed a bit of light on what that was like, and you know, what was your relationship with him at that time? Was that a balancing act?
because the whole rivalry was kind of built as almost the good guy versus the bad guy. Like Shannon was
sure.
this clean cut, wholesome, great guy, just goat, couldn't be beaten. Like this guy is our sport. And then there's this pink-haired guy running around, just nipping at his heels, shoving him over at Newcastle, doing all this. It's like it was built as that good versus bad.
It was the only thing that kept the sport interesting for a long time was you versus Shannon. Like, what was that relationship like between you two? Was it always amicable? Was there a fair bit of tension there?
Yeah, definitely tension when we're racing. Like, you guys both know what Shannon's like as an athlete. He's just a stone cold killer. Sorry. Yeah, and for the best part, it was like he was winning 9 out of 10 times. You know, yes, it was like it's an honor to be said. You know that I was pushing him along, and we had this really cool battle. That's really cool. But he was just so damn incredible, and and I did a lot of shit to piss him off. I tried to get under his skin so many times and just really try and push pressure on him. That was one of the things that me and Kingy kind of worked out, that he didn't like pressure. He didn't like people standing up to him. He might detest this. He might not like this. But like if you kind of look at
really
him,
rings true.
if you
rings
stand
true.
to him and look down at him on the eyes, and he was like, "No, don't you dare stand shoulder to shoulder with me," sort of thing. He had that sort of aura,
Big
you
time.
know, and he didn't like anyone that ever dubbed himself as being in his space. And so for me to be like,
I'm here-ish.
I'm here-ish, I'm nearabouts. He didn't like that, but I think the funny thing is, through that period of the Newcastle where he fell over, he definitely didn't like me for
His fall.
his unfortunate fall. He didn't like me for a long time after that.
Sorry, mate, go on.
Joke, he gets the last laugh. He went on the world's biggest tear after that. I
Yeah,
think
he did,
won
eh?
like
The revenge tour.
a year and a half.
Just
So,
poke the bear. Poke the bear.
Revenge tour was crazy.
You won the battle, but you lost the war. Like,
We all lost.
yeah, like everyone was just like, way to go,
Thanks,
Poole.
Matt.
Yeah,
What'd you
thanks
do
for the
that for,
shittest
Poole?
next year and a half racing Shannon. But by the end of my career, it was funny. I think we've actually, Bevy always says this, she's like, me and Shannon actually have a really, really good relationship. Like I think he likes me, has a lot of respect for me, and obviously I do for him as well.
Sure.
And I think it's on the back of, because I wasn't fake or full of shit. Like I just was me.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, you're so annoying, or you're so loud, or so this and that, but you're just you know." And so I think he came to an understanding or respect for that by the end. And
For sure.
yeah. So no, we have a really good relationship now.
Yeah, that's good. You said it earlier about the highlight reel and loving a highlight, and God, you've got plenty of them. But obviously, in your twilight years, your retirement year, you came out and you announced early because you did want to be able to appreciate the last couple of races and to be able to thank everyone for all the support behind you and just be able to say goodbye to everyone.
Get the send-off that
have
you
the
deserve.
send-off that you deserve. And you had some, what you might call movie script fairy tale moments and also some close calls. Obviously, sprint up the beach with carbs to almost win your last Nutri-Grain Iron Series race. Like that almost was like, wow, like that's fairy tale stuff. But then you had that redemption a couple of weeks later where you had that fairy tale moment at the Shannon Eckstein Classic weekend where you win this enormous race, the biggest race that we have in the calendar now, in front of probably the biggest crowd that we draw in our sport in your final race for Summer Surf World Ocean Series. Like, were you just made for big moments? Or did you lift in big moments?
I think I was I would say an athlete that if you give me a sniff, I could grab a win. If it was a big moment and you give me a chance, I could grab it. I could close out a race. But the crazy thing was, right, in that last part of my career, everything that happened on the water was polar opposite for what was going on off water for me behind the scenes. I was going through just hell with like a bit of a I won't go into it too much, but a bit of it. Personal life was just wild. And for the boys that, you guys that know all that, it was very, very crazy. And so I was kind of going into this, right, final chapter of my career, my identity, what I sort of found to be the biggest part of like, this is Matt Poole, my racing. I prided myself on that athlete side of it all. And it was just like every day was like putting on a brave face, turning up for the cameras, doing these media interviews. I did my media announcement and I was there, smiles, laughs, mum and dad were there, Kingy came along, friends came along, and it was this really cool day and it was all smiles and laughter. But then it was like in the car park, just like hell, And so I went into the Nutri-Grain race and almost got that, fairy tale finish with a sprint up the beach against carbs and just fell short. And I was kind of like, a little bit gutted, but also like still cool.
Still
really
a good
cool.
result.
Still good moments. Yeah. Podium in the Nutri-Grain Iron Series.
And then I got to the Shannon Eckstein arguably biggest race of the year, biggest prize money of the year.
Well, outside of Aussies, it's not an argument.
It's iconic.
But yeah.
That's a funny one when I talked about earlier, right? Some athletes race for legacy and thing, and I was that like Aussies for me in the early part of my career wasn't the goal for me. And I say that now, kind of kicking myself. I wish I did more to try, not to say that I didn't try, but I wish I really
made it a priority.
Made trying to win an Ironman title a priority. Whereas for me, it was always the Ironman series. That was kind of the professional series. That was, what it was.
That's to be fair, like that's a sign of the times, right? Because again, I'm a few years younger than you, but that was my experience as well. It's like, this is the be all and end all. It actually doesn't matter what your season looks like. It's either you're in the series, you're winning it, or you're not. And that's kind of all that matters, right? So like, you're actually just a product of the generation that you grew up in, that nobody kind of cared unless you're winning an Iron Series, right?
Yeah, for sure. And so I got into that weekend, and I had my entire family fly up from Sydney, more so to support me because it was just my last race, but also there was a lot of external stuff going on, and had everyone there, and it was just like massive surf. It was just wild. It was such a cool buzz on the beach, and I remember Wally was like, "Hey mate, you're going to run down last for the Iron Series. You're going to do a big guard of honor." And I was like, "Wow, that's so cool. That's so special for me." Like, again, when I talk about resurfacing some of that like imposter syndrome, it's like, that's awesome that like the other guys in my sport actually respect or care enough about me to do things like that. And when I ran through that, I was like, that was like, I had a real like pinch me moment where I was like, I didn't ever think, as weird as that sounds, I didn't ever think I was that guy. I kind of just thought I was in the series, but I wasn't, like a guy that was memorable or whatever. I was just doing my own thing and irrelevant to it all. And you're a little bit numb to it all too through time, right? 15 years of racing in the Kellogg series, you become numb to a lot of things. And so not until you get to the end and it is the last run that people are like, hey, no, like what you've done's been cool in the sport and we respect that. And so we had that run down and then, like I was just kind of on the start line, not even thinking. I remember like right before I said to Stu Hogman, I was like, what's the order? Like I hadn't even thought about the final. I didn't even know what we're doing. And it was board first, went around, like kind of had an okay race. Can't Caradag was out in front, I think a few others.
Yeah.
And I ran around and just had a really, really good swim. I had a good line. I went straight up, got around the cans clean. It was that ripping northerly like Poole.
Yeah.
And I just timed that part well, got on that little body surf wave. And I remember getting the body surf wave, and that was the first moment where I felt like I woke up. I was like, holy shit.
I'm in this race.
Yeah, you kind of went through the board and it just happened quick. I went through the swim and it happened quick. And then I stood up on the beach and I was like, wait a minute. Like these races are only 10 minutes, but like in that sort of surf and stuff like that, it feels like 30 seconds. You blink and it's over. And jumped on my ski, paddling out. And I remember just seeing a few massive sets. It was so big that day. It was so big that day. And you're either live or die by the sword, right? I was like, I'm going for it. And just got out over this massive big wave, and I thought I was home and hosed. And then sure enough, I look over and Bevy's there. I'm like, oh, asshole, of course he'd spoil this. And we ran around, and I remember as we went around, he had the inside and he just like dumped his right pedal and pinned it back to the beach on this little run. But I was looking over my left shoulder and I saw this big set, and I was like, I'm waiting. I'm going this set because if Bevy doesn't get that, I'm going this big bomb. And I went down this big wave, and it just kind of leveled a couple of times, and it was just like pretty tricky to hold, and a lot of people were slewing that day and whatever else. And then I can remember, like, I just got so excited. I launched my paddle, threw it away, and Dad was like, "You idiot!" So like Bevy and Carberry were like kind of right behind
Scrambling.
me, but running up, and it was just all it was all just happiness and emotion, and across the line. Bevy runs across second. My whole family were there at the finish line, and heaps of friends and stuff. So it was just like
honestly, it's our favourite race. Like we I don't know if you listen to many episodes of Tent Talk, but like that race, that moment, it would come up every second episode. Like it is just such a pinch me goosebump. Like if you had to market a race on anything, like that's Cool and Get a Gold movie script stuff. Like it's just one of my favourite races ever.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, I don't know how, like when he's explaining the story, because like Duff and I are romantic about the sport, right? Like we love storylines, and like again, as someone who's followed your career so closely, I just like the way that it all happened was just so poetic. It's like I kind of felt like in the moment people didn't even realize what they were watching, and like for me who just gets so romantic about the sport, I was just looking at it. It was one of the, I said this before the pod started, I was like, I've never been more happy to not be an important race in my life, because I just got to watch that and I was just like, holy shit, this is actually happening. This is absolutely psycho.
Yeah.
And then full disclosure, when you decided you were doing the trials this year, I was like, no, he's going to ruin my race. He's going to ruin my favorite race of all time, because it's not going to be his last race. But yeah, that race, man, was just spectacular. And, like I tried to interrupt Duff before, it was back at Northcliffe where you started your open career. Like it was off the back of, I think you got second at the same race the year before.
Yeah, to Jacko Maynard.
Yeah,
I
that's
thought
it, in a sprint finish.
It the year before. I thought Charlie Burko was in front. I saw him pull off a wave, and I was like...
And so like when I watched that race, that's what I saw. I saw the culmination of all those things. And I think a lot of people saw about Poole win another race. That's pretty cool. But for those who are, who love the sport like I do, you were just like, holy shit, this is mental.
Yeah,
it was
I can remember like...
in those great Finese grey jammers.
Happens and like...
Not a sponsor of the pod.
Oblivious to it all. And it wasn't until I got back to my unit, and like I can remember like everyone was like, oh, we've got to go back, the presentation, blah, blah, blah. And I went back, and Mum and Dad were out in the living room, and I got in the shower and I fully just cried. I was just like, it kind of just like, when I stood in the shower, I was like, what just happened? And that was kind of where I actually was like, holy shit, I've actually just done that in my last race. And that was when it proper hit me. And I was just like, yeah.
That's skits.
It's wild.
You mentioned you've mentioned your dad a few times, and I think everyone that knows Matt Poole also knows Ian Poole. Obviously, you got
without a shirt on.
the greater family behind you.
Weekend,
but
actually.
He was there handling on the weekend for JC and Lana Rogers.
No shirt. No shirt. No handlers.
Lana Rogers and Joey Collins.
Crazy. But obviously, he's been there through it all, and everyone knows Ian Poole, no shirt. But for him to obviously handle for all of your career, but then he's come out now on the weekend and handled for Lana and Joe. Like he has to contribute or attribute to some of the success as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. Crazy stat, right? Kendrick did his knee when you talk about guys that have done multiple series, right? Kendrick did his knee that year in Perth. He hyperflexed, had a season off. Kendrick missed a couple of years in earlier part of his career, in the start part. Ali had his wrists year, and then he had that illness year.
Yep.
Both came back, right? From whatever it was, 2008 to 2022, whenever I retired, I didn't miss one race in one series for 15 years. So Kellogg's series, 15
86
years straight,
races.
not one
86
round.
races.
Yeah, so not one round did I miss. But of that 86, then Ian handled for 86, did not miss one either, which is psycho. So it's pretty wild to have
Shout out
your
Ian.
dad, come along and not just handle for you, like he's your guy, he's your support guy, and he's seen it all. He's seen the wins, the losses, the highs,
Everything
the
in
lows,
between.
the setbacks, the getting surgery, 48
The indoor
hours
camping
before
setup.
surfers races, racing with 28 stitches and crying as your knees busting open at Surfers Paradise,
Yeah.
running around like
Yep.
snap skis at Surfers Paradise when
Punching
you're about to win a
skis.
race, punching skis,
Yeah.
winning races.
It's funny
Getting
because
blind in Bondi.
There is so
and-
much we
and
could go into. It's just wild.
I know.
There's a few, but
and he
you've
was
seen it
always
all.
he's
You saw it
also because for those who don't know, Matt's left-handed, and so anytime you lined up with him or next to him in a series race with your ski or board, you had to hear Ian go, "Matt's left-handed. He needs more room."
And he wouldn't be shy yelling at
Every time. It's so
you know
funny
what's
how
more
often
punishing?
it became about Matt being left-handed.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Do you know-
yeah, I'm also trying to do a board
I'll
start.
correct you there. I'm actually ambidextrous. I start my board left-handed, but I jump start my ski right-handed.
Ah, there you go.
That was something that pissed Shannon off a lot through
Yeah,
our career,
right.
was being right-handed as a ski jump start, but left-handed for a board.
That would irk him for some reason.
He's like, but why?
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Playing
Why?
on him.
Yeah.
You see him down the beach doing left-handed board starts. He's like, I wonder if he's getting something out of this.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I've got
I've got a couple of things.
yeah, I've
and
got a
look,
couple of fun ones left, but
This has been so much fun, and I don't want to take any much more of your time. I could sit here and do this for
We got cold
the
gravity.
rest of the night. We got cold gravities. We're good.
I've had like 5.
But one of the things
5
that
times distilled.
we've my turn.
Yeah,
All
sorry.
right. One of the things that we had a conversation about it probably in the last sort of 6 to 12 months, and it absolutely blew my mind because for me, this guy is one of the greatest athletes of all time. But there's a period in your life, in your career, where for whatever reason, you ended up in the States and you managed to find yourself staying in Michael Phelps's house for a week.
Yeah.
Like, how does Matt Poole of Queenscliff, New South Wales, end up in the greatest Olympian of all time's house to just hang out for a week and do a bit of training with him and just see how the greatest Olympian ever operates?
It was actually wild. I was over in the States in New York with a girlfriend at the time, and through her management company and Michael Phelps's management company, they're both managed by Octagon, and they'd met when he was over for Sydney Olympics, like super young. They were both super young then, or maybe it was just after that. I can't remember. They were friends, had stayed in contact, whatever else. Anyway, we were over in New York and we were like, oh, let's go to travel. And she was like, hey, I just spoke to Michael Phelps. He said we can come and stay at his house for a week. And I remember we were in New York and he lived in Baltimore. And I was like, we're going. But I think Baltimore's a bit of a shit.
I think so.
It's like a lot of high crime and stuff. But I'm like,
yeah.
we are leaving New York. We are going to Baltimore. I was like obsessed with the bloke.
Fizzing.
This guy's just unbelievable. And I was like, there's no way. Like I remember like on our way there and I was like, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? This is wild. And to top things off, it was literally the US always trial last before Olympics, right before 2012 London. So it was literally like he was like a month out from the trials leading into 2012 London Games. And so I was like, oh my God, I can't believe like we're staying in his house.
You don't want to impose on him. And
yeah. And so we flew in, he picks us up. And I remember jumping
He
in his
picks
car.
you up.
He picked us up from
What's
the
he
airport.
driving?
He was driving a black Range Rover, but he had like 3
Shit.
cars in his thing. He had a
That's
this
all
big.
right.
No, sorry, it was an Escalade, big Escalade.
Yeah.
He had a big Escalade. He had 2 other. He had a Porsche and something else in his garage. Like, yeah. And went back to his place in Baltimore. Beautiful house, big house, as you can imagine. And look, we just kind of hung out, and there were so many things. I was just kind of like idolizing him and fanboying the whole time. He played a lot of video games. He was training a lot. He still came out, and like we went out for dinners and stuff. He took us out for dinners. He even had a couple of drinks and stuff and out at dinners. And I was like,
he's a lad.
Yeah, I was like, what's doing? This is throwing me off.
Did you take him for a board paddle or offer to take him for a paddle?
No board paddles.
He would have been wrapped in cotton wool.
But he goes, I'm going to a session if you guys want to come and watch. I was like, yeah. I was like, absolutely. And so we went to the pool where he was training. It was just him and this other guy called Chris something, who was a 100-meter butterfly. And Bob Bowman was there. I met Bob Bowman, his coach. Yeah. And there was the two of them doing this
gnarly,
session.
by the way.
And this was the most... So I don't know if he was putting on the mayo because the Aussies were in town or what, but they did this psycho butterfly set, right? And this guy, he told me, was this young kid, Chris, who he'd flown him in to come and train with him in the lead up.
Like a sparring partner.
Like a sparring partner, so they could just go hammer and time. And he was like, yeah, this guy's good. And he was just like hammering this kid, right? And then like the kid like started just falling off cycle and missing and whatever. And I remember Phelps just like looked at him, did the biggest splash, and he goes, do it for the red, white and blue. And I was like, holy shit, what's going on? I was like, I don't think I breathed for probably like 2 minutes. I was like,
that Yanks is such Yanks.
Like nobody's doing that shit in Australia in a training session.
Way.
And he just like, I remember he slapped the water. He's like, do it for the red, white and blue. And I was like, oh, that kid is so defeated.
Yeah.
He's in his head,
he's
living
not
rent-free. Like,
he's defeated.
He's terrified.
Yeah.
And he went on to that games, and I think he got like 4 gold at London.
Yeah, he had a good one in London as well.
Yeah, so it was that. So that was a crazy opportunity.
Do you keep in touch with any of the people that you met along the way? Like, do you still have a relationship with Kai Lenny and?
Yeah,
if you went to Baltimore, is Phelpsy taking you on or like?
Nah, I think that ship has sailed. Okay. I don't think I'm getting.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm getting a second call up.
Yeah.
It might be the only time we get to ask this question. It's like, who is the most famous person in your phone? And it's probably like a complete A-lister.
Yeah, fuck, hit us with that. Who is the most famous? And then don't give us like you've met. Don't give us Phelps, like who you might know or keeping some sort of contact.
I don't know.
You do know.
On the way here on the car, actually, I just spoke to Dylan Alcott.
That's pretty cool.
He's
an Australian icon.
That's pretty good. Yeah. Tell Dylan.
What's he up to?
He can jump on the pod whenever he wants.
He's just been an OAM Lord now. He told me he's not a bad boy anymore. He's Australian's golden boy.
Yeah, he is.
He has to be.
Yeah.
He has to be. He's the golden boy that we wanted out of Matt Poole.
I said, I'm coming down in a couple of weeks for the Australian Open for an event. He goes, good, don't call me. Lose my number. He goes, I'll be working. I'm a good boy now.
I'm on the clock.
Yeah.
That's good. Do you have anything, Box? I think you might.
Yeah, I've just got a couple more just before we, like I said, we've gone along here, but is there an Ironman, today that you see yourself in at all? And this isn't a G up or taking the piss, but like you are very much one-on-one, and you can't be replicated. But is there someone that you see, maybe a little bit of yourself in terms of the way they carry themselves? Happy to have, that villain tag potentially or anything like that?
Oh, kills me to say it. Oh. He won't ever be that, but
no, of course not.
I see a little bit of being Joey Collins for sure. He's got a bit of bad boy in him, and that kid runs on the confidence juice.
Dude, does he what?
Oh, he's got a lot of natural talent. He's gritty as hell, like he is.
Yeah,
tough
that's
as nails.
that's his main strength.
Yeah, it's grit, and he's young. He's got it all there. I was probably a little bit better with the girls at his age than he was. So
no doubt.
They respond to my DMs.
Yeah. Yeah. If you know, you know.
Oh god. But no, I do see a little bit of Joe. Joe in me.
And then the other one,
all 5'6" of him.
Yeah, he's a slip of a lad.
5'8".
He's a slip of a lad. And then just lastly, like, you told me not to ask this question, but I kind of don't know how else to ask it. The landscape that the club is in today, right? We would have died for this situation coming through as juniors, like this 10-minute format. Like you and your prime at 20, 22, 20, not even your prime, but certainly that athletic prime where you have all that short speed. Like how much do you...
The Matt Poole brand itself is already enormous.
Yeah.
In a different format with a different lens, with probably at a different time, how big could have the Matt brand,
Yeah, like
Matt Poole brand been?
you drop prime Matt Poole in today, right now, with the money that we're seeing. Like, how much do you think you would have flourished versus kind of what you know? I mean, you're more or less rubbing two sticks together back then. You know, now with the sponsors, the commercial partners that we have, do you think you would have obviously flourished in this day and age?
Yeah, look,
And are you a bit jealous?
the sport right now is in an incredibly lucky or fortunate position. Shaw & Partners Financial Services and Earl Evans, good friend of mine, great guy. He's actually looked after me, sponsored me for a number of years, even sponsored me this year for the little sort of comeback adventure. That's the sort of guy he is, genuine, loves the sport, loves athletes, and if you're a good guy, no dickhead policy, he will support you all the way. And it's probably testament to where the sport is right now, right? He's across everything. So there is a lot of athletes getting opportunities today in the sport that certainly the athletes of that level or tier weren't getting back in my time. Are they making more money? Look, definitely the top guys have got the opportunity to make more money for sure. I always had some really good sponsors, right? So my sponsor, I would always make sure, big part of my start of my season was that commercial opportunities were sort of locked away. So before I put a toe in the water, I had a figure of it.
You were sufficient.
Yep. And prize money was just the icing on the cake.
Yep.
And that was always how I sort of treated my professional athlete, right? Racing for prize money is psycho. It's very hard. You can get away with it when you're young and a uni student, don't have that. But once
you pay no rent, it's $500 a week to live.
Yeah.
Sure.
Later in life, though, racing for prize money is like just not feasible.
Yep.
So look, the guys in the sport right now are in a very good opportunity, right? They've got essentially the Iron Series, which is I still maintain is somewhat the Test cricket of
the apex. Sure.
I'm not saying apex. I'm not saying apex. And then you've got the World Ocean Series, which is the Big Bash League, right? And that, in my opinion, is why the dynamics work in keeping them segregated. Of your top 20 guys or 28 guys, whatever it is, qualify for your Iron Series, and it is hard, tough endurance formats where the fittest, the strongest, 99 times, are rising to the top in those formats. And then you've got this World Ocean Series, which is also a true test of the Ironman athlete. It is short, sharp, dynamic, speed racing, skills, but there is generally more kids that are great athletes, incredible athletes, can get on top in an 8-10 minute race and win.
For sure.
They're not any less than Ali or say Bevies or Kendricks. They maybe don't have the sharpened knife to do that 40 minute enduro, but over 8-10 minutes, they're still very classy athletes and they can get a win. And so I love that the athletes have the differentiating series right now, which we didn't have. We had the Kellogg's and then it was clubby racing.
Do you think you would have suited it?
I think I would have suited World
So to be absolutely clear, you've won 2 summer surfs.
Ali's Ali, and he doesn't win. Until last year, he hadn't even won a World Ocean Series, right? And he has won a few, but he's Ali, by his standards or level of resume, he hasn't won that many World Ocean Series races. And that's because that short, sharp racing is so testing and challenging. And if you make one mistake or even have a stroke of bad luck, you're probably not going to win. You need to win those World Ocean Series races, you need to have an incredible race and get good luck.
In summary, do you think that would have suited you? Versing the people that you versed in your time, do you think that you would have been quite handy in that format at that time versing the people that you were versing?
I think in my years of 22 to 26, for sure, I would have been pretty handy over those 8-10 minute races. I was pretty explosive, still quite lean and had speed, especially on a lot of those guys. But, nowadays, what I notice the most is the speed and fast twitch fibers in the athletes nowadays is psycho.
Crazy,
like
hey?
Cooper Williams, Zach Morris, Joe Collins, even yourself. Like there is guys like that didn't exist in the Ironman series in the first 5, 6, 7 years of my career. There was no guys winning sprint finishes like that. You guys that won like that were like a Hayden White or a Cam Cole or Tannen Linden.
Yeah, of
they
course.
were 3 guys that didn't win Iron Series races, but had extremely quick sprint finishes, right?
Yeah.
But now I feel like the series, there's 15 guys that dead set are like could
Lightning.
win a beach sprint at Aussies, I feel like Corey Fletcher. Sorry, I didn't mention Corey Fletcher. He's probably arguably the fastest.
That's given.
Corey Fletcher, Zach Morris, the Morris brothers. Sean Riley's so quick up the beach. Connor Maggs is quick up the beach. Carbs is quick up the beach. The guy's a monster. He's huge. You know, and that's crazy to me is just how quick or explosive they are for that sprint speed. And I think that's with the coming of World Ocean Series.
Yep.
I reckon we finish the pod on this, the final chapter for now in the Matt Poole book. More comebacks than John Farnham. But you come out of retirement, you obviously tilted your hat at the Iron Series. Wasn't the desired result, but you were racing from a very different place that Matt Poole may have raced from in the past. Massive motivating factor with your daughter Posey and racing for her. And as far as I'm aware of it, it was for that moment of having her be aware, to see dad race, and to have that moment where you are holding her on the beach. So although maybe not the desired result, you still took a lot out of it, didn't you?
Yeah, definitely. That was the thing. I never got caught up. I held off for so long in telling anyone I was doing it because there was so many factors that had to fall into line. Like life's just busy for me now. Like part owner in Gravity Seltzer. I'm coaching at Talabudra. I'm doing all the nippers down there. I do the swim coaching down there. I've got my own brand deals and sponsorship stuff that I'm trying to do. I've got a 2-year-old daughter as well.
TikTok dances to learn.
TikTok
is currently moving really
there's a lot on, and I was not doing anywhere near the amount of training as all the other boys were, or even what I was doing in the peak of my career. And so that in itself at 36 is not ideal. So there was a lot of factors where I'm like, I'm by no means coming out as like Matt Poole. I'm back here to shake the tree and try and contest for races and podiums and things. It was like the moment for me was running across the finish line with Posey in the start. That's what I wanted to get. And I didn't get that in the series, but I got it at the trials in a similar scenario. So it was like a bittersweet ending to have that photo, which I got, you know, in the Iron Series staff and her being old enough now at an age where she was like, she knew what I was doing. She knew I was racing and whatever else. So I didn't get what the desired outcome, but I still got it in a way. And the big part of that was also now that I'm coaching at Talabudra there and I'm loving coaching the nippers, we have a great club, great young bunch of kids coming through to sort of be like, you know, I can do it from here. I'm coaching you guys and I want you guys to be inspired when I'm standing up there telling you what to do, why I'm telling you, you know.
Do they
Really giving me the shits at Mermaid because we're the 2 up and comers. We're trying to take the big dogs
we're not
down.
taking part. We're taking over.
Yep.
There's a lot of before we'll wrap it up in a moment, but like, do they know Matt Poole or are they a bit obsessed with Joe Collins? And
I think they're too young.
Yeah, that sucks. That breaks my
a little
heart.
bit. That's all right. I'll sit them down in the room and we'll watch some old VHS tapes.
Awesome.
Oh God. Well, Paulie, honestly, thank you so much for joining us. And look, this has been a little while in the works. We've spoken about it a few times, and I think the timing was right. A name and a character as iconic as yourself only fits that you're a part of the highlight, the 50th episode. So from the whole 10 Talk crew, thanks for jumping on board and being a part. Have you got any last things you want to air? Any grievances, or you've got it all off your chest now?
Nah, it's all off my chest.
That's good. That's good. Box,
mate. Like probably just a well overdue compliment for Paulie. I don't think, you know, he talked a lot or certainly touched on a lot of imposter syndrome stuff. I just think that his influence, you know, in surf sports is certainly in my generation the biggest. You know, there's a lot of people that have their careers to thank for you. I just really appreciate everything you've done for the sport. Thanks for being different and proving that it's okay to be different. Good luck with, you know, the rest of your journey, being a dad, beyond. You're a fucking hell of a bloke, and excited to see what you do next.
Thank you. Thanks,
beautiful.
boys.
And
it's been an honour.
We're off to Adelaide this weekend as well.
We are.
Back in the commentary booth. So
Yeah, the boys.
hey, Batman and Robin hit the road again.
Yeah, we'll carry you again for another week.
Well, mate, if that's been 10 Talk,
We out.
Ten talk with Duff and Beats. I said it's 10 talk with Duff and Beats. I said everybody get Talk with Dove and the Beats.
All right. This episode of Tent Talk is brought to you by the team at Personalised Property Professionals, the team of Brian and Lisa. It goes by the name of Happy, and happy you will be if you go with the team.
Oh, that is a perfect segue.
It's great, isn't it?
And what do they specialise in, Duff?
Mate, they specialise in everything. They're the full package when it comes to property and
What,
being
like
the professionals.
rentals.
Investments, DIY, auction bidding. Like you get the nerves at auction. It's hard. It's
Yeah, it's
testing.
not for everybody.
It's testing ground. It's not for everyone. Happy will go to war for you. He will go in there with the paddle.
Yep.
And he will bid for you at auction.
Yep.
So look, they are professionals. They've been doing this for years now. They're a little boutique buyers agency. They only take on just a handful of clients at a time. So you know with Happy and Lisa that you're getting looked after. You're getting the first class, A-class service.
I love that. I love boutique anything. We've got a sponsor of this week pod as well that we're going forward with as well, and then obviously a little boutique service paradise as well. So I'm very familiar with the boutique outfit stuff.
Well, that's it. You and I, we've both got a mortgage. We've
Very
been in
much.
the trenches. But
Yep.
for those that haven't been in the trenches, for those that maybe need to invest in the world of rent vesting, Brian and Lisa, they've got you there as well.
What's rent vesting?
Well, rent vesting is where you live where you love
Right.
and you invest where it counts.
Okay. That sounds like a bit of me.
Think of it this way, Beats. You're a Warilla Barrack Point boy.
I am.
You train up at Surfers Paradise.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can't afford Surfers Paradise. Maybe it's too big. Maybe it's too hard. Go back home. Buy in Warilla Barrack Point. Have the family home you always dreamed of. Rent in Surfers Paradise where you can afford. And whammo, bammo, you're in the market.
Best of both worlds.
Best of both worlds. So for those that want to reach out and see the team at Personalised Property Professionals, jump online, www.personalisedpropertyprofessionals.com today, and let them know you're in there to build your future.
And you know what? Tell
One
them-
property at a time.
Tell them Duff and Beats sent you.
Tell them.
It might mean nothing, but it might mean something.
It will mean everything to Happy and Lisa. We're happy to have them on board here at 10 Talk, and we can't wait for this long-lasting partnership just to build, like your property portfolio will, one property at a time.
Beautiful.
Reach out, get in the DMs if you can't get onto Personalised Property DM, and we'll put you in touch.